Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reacting to my second Shiny Gold Tales video for you guys, and this was titled Three True Disturbing College Horror Stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
This happened a few years ago when I was in my second year of college.
Okay.
Like many students, I had a real problem with procrastination. I really did put things off until the last possible minute. However, I always managed to get things done anyway. I think there's something about that last minute pressure that always gave me a superhuman ability to focus and finish my work. I was in the school library one evening, studying for my psychology final. The exam was the next day, and I had a lot to get done. I was on my third or fourth coffee for the day, and it was looking like I would be pulling an all-nighter.
I was kind of like that back when I was in middle school and high school. I was always trying to study really hard and try to get all my homework and assignments done in school. But I would not stay up all night trying to study or drink coffee. But I get it. She really wants to pass the exam, and I say, you do whatever you got to do. But anyway, let's just continue with this story and see what happens to her while she's in the library.
It was almost 11 p.m., so the library was almost empty. I went to a larger college, so I could spend the whole day at the school and not see anyone who I really knew. The few other students scattered throughout the large room looked completely unfamiliar to me. I had managed to find a quiet nook between two bookshelves where there was a small desk and a power outlet for my laptop. It was quite secluded, except there was one table that I could see out of the corner of my eye.
Oh, that's what I would do in high school because we had laptops. I'll make sure that my desk has a power outlet nearby just so I can charge it up real quick before I have to go to another class. But it's always good to find some quiet space just so you can really deep dive into what you're studying without anybody bothering the heck out of you. But anyway, let's continue.
About 20 feet away. There was a single guy there studying. He was a little older, maybe a grad student, I thought. He had a patchy beard and glasses, short brown hair, and large bags under his eyes. Further proof that I was not the only one sacrificing my sleep for grades. I didn't pay him any attention, but I could tell in my peripheral vision that he would look up at me every now and then. That didn't concern me at the time, though. I'd been studying since early in the morning, and even though I was crushing coffee all night, it was getting difficult for me to keep my eyes open. Although I was trying to focus on my work, there was no use in fighting my urge to sleep. I laid my head down on the large wooden desk and gave in, saying to myself that I would just rest for 5 minutes. I have no idea how long I was out, but it must have been longer than I had planned. I was woken by someone gently shaking my shoulder. It took me several seconds before I realized where I was, but when I looked up, I saw the guy from the other table. We locked eyes for a few seconds. I was so confused that I didn't know what to say. He slowly leaned down and whispered something in my ear. "Don't drink your coffee. It's not safe," he said. "What? Why?" I replied. "While you were sleeping, I think I saw someone put something into it. I don't know what," he whispered. Shocked and terrified, I stuck my head out and looked around the library. I'm not sure what I was looking for, but maybe I was not thinking straight. I was ready to get up and throw the coffee in the trash when the guy stopped me. "Wait," he whispered. "Save it. We'll bring it to security." I was still half asleep and not thinking clearly. Of course, we should save the cup as evidence. The two of us walked to the reception desk of the library and asked them to call security. We were invited into the security office, where we spoke to one of the officers. I told him where I was sitting, and he was actually able to find a camera that could see me at the time. We played back the footage to the time when I was sleeping, and sure enough, we could see someone walk up to my desk, open the lid to my coffee cup, and put something in. It was clear as day. The perpetrator looked just like a normal student. probably in my year. The footage was black and white, but he wore a light polo shirt and cargo shorts with shoulder-length hair. We were even able to get a clear shot of his face. It was not long before he was caught. Although he admitted to being the guy in the video, he claimed that it was just a joke and that he didn't actually put anything in. That didn't make any sense to me, because where's the joke? He was expelled from school, but unfortunately, there were no legal charges. That's because the tests on the coffee cup came back as inconclusive. They were not able to figure out what was in there, so there was actually no proof that he had done anything. Although I was disappointed that there were no legal consequences, I was blown away by the support from the school administration and other students. The situation was taken very seriously. It was big news on campus at the time. I would also like to give special thanks to the guy who noticed what happened and spoke up, because without him, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah, thank God he got up and walked over there. You know, and she was saying that he was looking up at her so often. I thought it was him, but I'm glad that he told her and they walked over to security and found out who it was. Why would that guy think it was a joke? I mean, other people would take it seriously, thinking that you were trying to poison her or something. But thankfully, she had some help with the staff and other students, and she was able to get through that whole fiasco. But this is why you don't do pranks at schools, especially colleges, because you do something like that, you're expelled automatically. Even though you thought it would have been funny. It ain't. But anyway, let's get to story number 2, shall we?
When I was in college, I used to volunteer for the campus safety patrol. Among other things, it was a program where we would walk people to their cars or to the bus stop. It was a way to make sure that single people could feel safe at night. If you were a student on campus late, you could give us a call and we'd walk you to your car or wherever, so you wouldn't have to go alone.
That sounds like a nice program, because you never know if creeps will be wandering around the campus and a student or faculty member may not feel safe walking to their vehicle or bus stop. I think all colleges should have some sort of program like this.
We would always work in teams of 2 for added safety. We weren't security guards or anything, so we didn't carry weapons, not even pepper spray. We just wore a bright red vest that said Safety Patrol on the back. I would volunteer for 1 night per week. It was usually pretty fun depending on who else was working. We would hang out in the lounge and talk most of the time, occasionally going for a walk when somebody called. My friend Mark and I had a shift together one night. We had gotten a few calls already that evening, more than usual, and we would have been more than happy to spend the rest of the night chilling in the office until 11 p.m., which is when the shift ended. It was around 10:30 p.m. I had put my feet up on one of the tables in the lounge, ready to relax for the next half hour. Mark was about to take a seat next to me when the phone rang. We exchanged annoyed looks. Then Mark walked over to the phone and answered it. I looked over at him. He was nodding his head as I heard muffled talking on the phone. "We'll be right there," Mark said. I was a little annoyed, but of course I had to do my duty. You know that feeling if you've ever worked retail or customer service. The store's about to close, and then a customer walks in. Your mind is in another place, but the store is technically still open, so it is what it is. I stood up and put on my vest, then Mark and I walked out the door of the office. The college was one of the more modern that I had seen. No historic buildings or clock towers with vines growing halfway up. This campus was made up of right angles and a lot of large windows. The place was lit up like daytime when you were in the main part of the college. However, there was a dark path that we would need to take between there and the parking lot, which is where we would usually walk people to. Mark told me that we were meeting a girl named Cassie, and that she needed us to walk her to her car in the parking lot. We walked over to Building B, which is where she asked us to meet. As we approached the spot, I saw a young woman, probably in first or second year. Her long brown hair draped over her shoulders. The strap of her book bag pinned one side of her hair to her jean jacket. We greeted her and exchanged pleasantries for a few seconds before we set off. The three of us continued to make small talk as we made our way out of the campus towards the parking lot. We were now on the dark path. It was dimly lit by only a few light posts. The grassy field on either side of the park was pitch black.
Okay, first of all, you mean to tell me that this is one of those fancy colleges and they are able to afford all these fancy lights in the building, but they can't afford lights past this path right here, like going towards the field? That's really ridiculous. You got people walking this path, and all they can see is the lighted walkway, and you're giving thieves or rapists or any other person that wander off into campus a good hiding spot at night. But since they got safety patrol walking this girl to her car, they could deal with any possible threat, even though they said they don't have no taser or spray gun. But no, if I'm walking on a barely lit path, I'm still bringing a flashlight just so I can shine it over into the black field area if I hear a noise. Because if I see a man or a creepy looking woman hiding over there, I'll be telling the people to run.
Cassie was quite pleasant and personable. The conversation never got beyond formalities, but she seemed very nice and appreciative. However, Mark and I were somewhat alarmed when she made a strange request. She asked that we cut through the field as a shortcut to her car. This would mean abandoning the path. It made no sense. Mark politely told her that we were sticking to the path. After that, her attitude changed instantly. Although her face was only lit by the dim light posts, I could see anger in her eyes. Something was wrong. Just then, Cassie yelled out, "Now." Seconds later, two people ran out from the darkness. Mark and I bolted back in the direction we came from. We didn't even bother looking back. After 2 or 3 minutes, we were back on the main campus, and we finally looked. Nobody was there. I have no idea how far they chased us, but we were relieved to be safe. Cassie must have been planning some kind of ambush on us, but why? Mark and I were both broke college students. It was not like we had anything worth stealing. Whatever the reason, Mark and I reported the incident to security. We were later asked to help with the investigation, and when we were shown pictures of every student named Cassie or Cassandra or anything similar, not surprisingly, none of them matched the girl that we saw that night. She obviously used a fake name and probably wasn't even a student. We never found out who Cassie was or who those other guys were, but because of this, the school did finally improve the lighting on that path. A small gesture, but definitely the right move.
Hey, I'm glad that they were able to improve the lighting, but they should have done it before this incident, because then they would have got a good, clear picture of not only her, but them two guys that were running out. I cannot believe that you would set up two safety patrol guys just so they could be ambushed while walking with you. That's just ridiculous. They said they're just two broke college students. I don't know where you get from them, unless you wanted to kidnap them or something else. And shocker, it seemed like that girl did not even go to that school if they can't find her image in the school pictures. But I'm just glad they did the right thing and listened to their gut and ran.
I went to a small community college near my hometown. When this happened, I was in my last year. Near the school, there was an area off campus almost entirely inhabited by students. I didn't live there myself, but I often made my way through for various reasons. Whether I was visiting friends or just passing by on my way to the school, it was quite normal for me to set foot in this neighborhood. I was walking home from the school one evening through that neighborhood. It was a weekday evening, which usually meant that things were pretty quiet. But even by weekday standards, it was so quiet, so empty, that it was eerie. As I trudged down the sidewalk, there was not a movement to be seen. Not a person, not a car. I don't even think I saw so much as a squirrel or a pigeon on the move. This place was downright empty. It was right around dusk. The streetlights had just come to life. I was rather enjoying the somber calmness while I made my way past each of the rundown houses and apartment buildings.
You know, that's kind of strange that even though we go right next to abandoned apartment buildings or in a neighborhood that's hardly any traffic going through, you will probably hear some noises, like birds chirping or something. But hey, walking through a quiet neighborhood always calms the mind, that's for sure.
Then my fellow students called home. The quietness ended when I heard the snarling sound of a car engine approaching me from behind. I turned to look and saw an older car moving towards me. It was a Ford sedan, probably mid-90s, if I had to guess. As the car was passing me, it slowed to my walking pace. A young man leaned over from the driver's seat and said to me, "Where are you headed? Need a ride?" I answered, telling the guy where I lived. It was about a 30-minute walk for me, so a ride would have actually been nice. Nothing really struck me as creepy at this point. I went to a relatively small college, and the community was friendly, so for students to offer each other rides was not that strange. "Sure, thanks very much," I said. He stopped the car, and I took the front seat. We made awkward small talk for several minutes. I asked him what his major was, and other mundane questions. I was surprised to find out that he was not actually a student at my college, which he admitted with some apprehension, making me think that for some reason he actually wanted me to believe that he was a student. At that point, I gave him a nervous look and leaned away from him. I'm sure he picked up on that because the mood instantly changed. I wanted to get out of the car at that point, but I didn't want to admit that I was scared. I still thought he would drive me home, but I was planning on telling him a false address when we got close. We sat there in silence for a few minutes until I could not take it anymore. I broke the tension when I said, It's okay. I'll just get out here." He didn't answer, just kept his eyes on the road. It's like he was pretending that he couldn't hear me. After that, my mood went from uncomfortable to terrified. I had straight up asked to get out of the car, and he wouldn't let me. I was not a law major, but I think that technically counts as kidnapping. There was no time to give a legal lecture, though. I sat there terrified, looking out the window, trying to pretend that everything was all right. I didn't want him to know how scared I was, because if his intentions were as I thought, then he might make a move. Just then, I realized something. We had not been going in the direction that I told him earlier. He was definitely not driving me home, and he never was. I knew I had to get out of there, but the only option was to jump out of a moving car. Luckily, it was an older model, so the locks were manual, and he couldn't prevent me from unlocking the passenger side door. He slowed the car to make a sharp turn. That was my chance. I quickly opened the car door and jumped out of the moving vehicle. I stumbled on the ground and scraped my knee, but nothing serious. Then I started running. It wasn't long before another car drove by. I told them everything, and they offered to give me a ride home. By that time, the car had driven off. I reported the incident to the police, but as far as I know, he has never been caught. I know that there were some early warning signs, and I feel embarrassed for getting into that car in the first place. We should all be careful when accepting rides from strangers, so let my mistakes be a lesson for all.
Okay, I agree. If you see, hear, or feel any warning signs about somebody offering you a ride, you better pay attention to all them signs, because you never know if a person may not be a college student like yourself and they'll just take you and kidnap you, or they'll take you to your house and then come back and rob you. You just never know. But thankfully, this person learned when to open up the door and get out quick and get a ride from somebody else. But I figured that guy was going to be gone already because he was smart enough to elude the police probably. But anyway, I'm just glad that this person's all right and they were able to get back to their house safe and sound and continue going to that university. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Shiny Gold Tales reactions like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Squad channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.